you're gonna look great. But if you wanna stay in shape, well, you better hit the GymWits.
That's right, man. Tell 'em. Welcome to the GymWits podcast. I'm Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, a.k.a. Chef Sonic.
And I'm Toni Marinucci, a.k.a. Tips with Toni, a registered dietitian.
And we are the GymWits. So it's funny because all of these travel-related podcasts are coming out at the same time, so people are going to think all I do is travel. But
you do travel a lot.
I do travel a lot, but it's not as much as it may appear because of the timing of releases. But I was on a cruise, and it was a great vacation. We went to Vancouver, Seattle, then did an Alaskan cruise. And I've done a few cruises before, and some people love them, some people hate them. But this was the first one I did that was like most in America. Like, I did one that was Hawaii, but there was a huge international contingent. I did one in the Mediterranean that was a lot of international. This one was mostly American. I'd say 99% American, and I was just shocked by the. I mean, I don't know how to put it. I don't want to be kind of offensive towards people, but just the morbid kind of obesity rates on that cruise, and it was weird because we live in New York, and when I do travel, it's to Europe, so we don't see the levels of obesity at that scale. Than when I was in this moment, and so I'm kind of wondering. It was kind of for me. Is it more like that in the middle of America where I just don't travel too much, or am I missing something? But it was just something that was just a shock. And again, I don't want to be disparaging, and I'm not demeaning anybody. It was just strange to see that much, and I guess there's a larger question about the rates in the country, but I guess that was the first thing we hear about the obesity rates in the country, and it never really clicks to me because I guess we're in a kind of cosmopolitan city, and you just don't see it as much. But I was really it was eye opening.
And as you say that, you hear the car.
Oh yeah, car honks. Yeah, we're just gonna say we do it intentionally to add to the flavor of the podcast.
Yeah. It's funny. No, it's true. The rates.
Well, you've done more international. I mean, you've done more traveling within the international
amount, and yes, the rates are very high. And for what it's worth, all over the world, the rates are going up. In parts of Europe, France, England, there are high, perhaps not as high as the U.S., but they're getting high. And perhaps one of the most shocking statistics is that I don't know the exact numbers, but that childhood obesity is going up in other parts of the world as well. I think that more accessibility to unhealthy foods, McDonald's, processed foods, sugary drinks and stuff like that, I think potentially are adding to it. But I know that you had mentioned that the behavior of people, that they at the buffet, that people would go and they would eat enormous plates of food and they would go back for more and more and more. And I think that's that's everyone's right to eat as much as they want.
To be fair, I did that too. You're on a cruise, you have unlimited food. But what do you have to say? Any thoughts on this, Toni? Or
well, I mean, it's statistically true that Americans are. It's just rising, but I think the number at this point, I haven't looked at it too recently, but about 68%, so which is 2/3 of Americans are either overweight or obese, and it definitely is transferring into other parts of the world because they're trying to be more like Americans. The other parts are trying, the Western diet, they have more fast food restaurants, sweetened beverages, processed foods, all of those things are just really easily accessible. So it definitely is a concern for sure. And the childhood obesity is on the rise as well.
Yeah, that was another thing I did notice a lot of was there were a lot of kids that were, were dealing with weight issues where, again, it's one thing to, it's one thing, to, if the kid's overweight, but I think it was just the level of it was alarming with kids. And I feel like at some point, and again, I don't want to tell people how to parent their kids, but at some point you gotta at least exercise some bit of self-control. Sure, I guess.
Well, a lot of it is just the way they live their life, and they don't realize that they're setting an example. And children's, monkey see, monkey do. When I was on vacation back in July, I was in Florida. I remember I was in the pool, and the mom was overweight and was talking to this daughter. Her daughter may have been like 9 years old, telling her daughter, and this is like kind of like the reverse, telling her daughter that when we get back from vacation, mommy's going on a really strict diet. And she wasn't talking to me. I was just overhearing, and I would never interject or anything like that. But that's just as bad too. Not only are you setting a bad example of overeating and, choosing all these things, but then telling she had to have been maybe 9, maybe not even, like your 9-year-old, that you're going to be going on this crazy diet and you're not going to be able to eat a lot of things, and mommy's not going to be able to do this, mommy's going to be able to do that. Like, that's just already setting up your daughter for a whole literally just like not having a healthy relationship with food. And it's too much. So I mean, some people just don't know any better. But I mean, we should probably save this for another episode where we could just talk about obesity in general, and then even how parenting affects, children's habits and behaviors.
And I think it's also there's a cultural issue, and I'm not a sociologist, but clearly I think we live in a society that deals with in excess and extremes, and that in itself I think is a huge part of the problem. That we're just constantly dealing with. With extremes, and there's never, balance is never something that people strive for, just evenness is not something that we strive for. And so unfortunately you do with these situations, where you're if someone's getting married, so it's an extreme diet and extreme weight loss. When they're done, extreme excess, it's just, it's insane. And we all feed into it and buy into it. And I think, it's definitely something we need to, talk about further.
Well, I think that serves as a perfect segue to our episode, which I've wanted to do for a long time. It's about Fatburners.
I actually have to give you credit. Typically, in Justin written episodes, it's like we wing it and then we just sit and figure out the questions. You took time. You wrote it out. You sent the questions early. Like, good on you for actually preparing this. I have not looked at any of your questions, but honestly, I'm
seeing them right now as we speak.
I think I'm unnecessary though. So you
well, no, you're definitely going to be necessary.
Oh crap! Okay.
I want to want your experience with this. Fatburners. There's another term for them. They're called thermogenics. Which, if you know, there's actually sort of a scientific term behind that. But it's been appropriated by the supplement industry because it sounds cool and modern and whatnot. And if you know, advice that I've given, anything that has the term genics, thermo, iso, in a supplement, just please buyer beware. So Fatburners, as you guys know, are very popular. They sell, by the bushel load, and they're advertised and marketed, in certain ways. And especially with our earlier discussion about obesity and people being overweight, they play a big time role in society, and we've talked about sort of shortcuts many times. So I think they serve as a perfect shortcut for people trying to lose weight. We'll get into all of that. But so first, Ryan, I want to ask, what's your experience? Because you remember, I'll start off first, then we'll get Ryan's experience. I remember when we first started working out. Almost no sooner did we start hearing about Xenadrine, Stacker at the time, these supplements that came out that supposedly gave you this energy and helped you lose weight, and they were relatively, I don't know when they started coming out, but they were relatively new. I know that there have always been diet pills prescribed, but these were supplements. Do you remember? And I know that you
we all did that stuff.
What was your what did it feel like when you took it?
I mean, it's hard to remember, but I do remember. If you feel, there was definitely stuff in there that we, probably wasn't good for us. A lot of times I remember being lightheaded or fidgety, wiry. I'm sure there was lots of caffeine and other chemicals, and some, with the supplement industry and the way it's kind of regulated, who knows what was in it. But I definitely didn't feel good. Know what was in it. We'll talk about it. Did you have any success losing weight? Probably, but I don't. But who knows how much of that was a product of the actual pill versus the amount I was exercising and my age and fitness level at the time and cardio and all that other stuff. So it's hard to say, what. It's hard to say where that weight loss was really coming from. If it was more placebo, if it was just like I said, it just so happened to be, because I've gotten results with and without stuff like that. So sure. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, and like it's like something that most of us have dealt with. Have you had experience with any kind of like Fatburners or any of that stuff growing up?
So when I was in high school, it was a really interesting experience. So I basically worked out with the football team. I was the only shot put discus thrower at my high school, and it was incorporated a lot of strength training. So I would work out with the football team, and I became really good friends with like these 3 groups of guys that I mean, I don't even know if they listen to this, but shout out to them if they do. They know who they are. So we would hang out, and I would go with them to like, GNC, and they would get all these supplements, and obviously like they would, you should try this, you should try that. I almost like felt like it was like me, like to pass weed. Like I didn't do any drugs, like, but in high school you're like easily influenced. So, I had really poor body image issues, and I was overweight in high school, as athletic as I was. So I was like, okay, I tried like a Fatburners. To be honest, I don't know the name of it. I think there was like green tea extract. I don't know what it was, but I remember two things, and then I stopped taking it. So one time I remember it did make me a little bit nauseous and jittery, and that was kind of much it. And like my workout, I think it was supposed to give me like an improved workout. It didn't really. And then the other time I had taken it, I remember being at work, and I worked at a concession stand, and I got hungry and I ate like a muffin or something, and I guess it like recognizes when you eat something like not good for you. And I had to, I mean, not for TMI, but like I had to run to the bathroom. It just basically like, so all I remember is it made me a little bit nauseous, a little bit jittery, and it made me like get sweaty and like move my bowels. Like, so I'm sure it was like, yes, technically speeding up the metabolism in some way, but in general, I didn't take it long enough to actually get any of like the quote unquote fat burning, results or anything like that. And I don't like taking anything that's like foreign. It didn't make me feel good.
Sure. Ryan's being funny now. He's shifted his position to be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. Oh.
So my experience with it, and now I think that the Fatburners that we took were a little different.
Yours sound probably more strong. Mine was probably more just like, an assistant.
Well, there's actually a reason for that, which I'll get into. But my experience is very similar. I had it was actually a loss of appetite while I was on it. Very jittery. For the first maybe week or so, it looked like I lost weight, but any results that I had just completely stabilized over time, and it wasn't much of anything. And I felt weird, and I didn't feel good. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right? I have had workout supplements that have sort of helped me work out, but I don't know if they ever helped me lose fat. Mm. So, I guess the question, we've talked about this before, so that there's no confusion. How does the body burn fat?
Well, that's a good question, because technically,
in a very layman's term, right?
Well, you mean like thermogenesis, like that happening?
Or just how does someone lose? Why and how? We talked about it, but just
basically just you have to have you have to breathe out CO2. And right? Isn't that how? Yeah.
I think that's what I read. Like, it was, in art, recently it was like, where does the fat go? And it's basically, you're breathing out
Because I'm so
CO2.
used to telling people in layman's terms, which is basically you need a caloric deficit, and the more muscle you have, the better, the body's more efficient at burning fat.
So it comes down to a caloric deficit.
Yeah,
at the
pretty much. Yeah.
So now, with that being said, is there any scientific evidence that you can take something that's going to melt the fat away?
No, there's scientific evidence that show like certain spices and certain foods can help with like create that thermogenesis. That's technically that fat burning property that's happening in the body, but it's aiding in it. It's not basically like this causes that. Like that's where you get things like green tea extract supplements that like they'll take science and studies, or like cayenne pepper and all these things.
These are all ingredients in a lot of these.
Are they? That's so funny. Yeah. See, I don't research that stuff because I know there's no magic pill, and I don't waste time research. I mean, I don't mean to say it like that. I will research if I have to, but at this point in my life, in my career of being a dietitian and knowing what works and what doesn't, I don't waste time on researching the things that I know aren't probably going to make or break someone's diet. So yeah.
These things are they could act as a boost or something that helps, but really at the end of the day, it's not if you're not dieting,
if you're not if you're not exercising regularly, if you're not eating healthy, you're not going to actually quote unquote burn fat. If there's no caloric deficit, it's not going to help you. You can't eat whatever you want, take a fat burning supplement, and expect to lose weight. Okay. And never exercise.
So what I've done is I've researched 3 of the most popular, because Ryan asked me to do this. He said, take some of the popular fat burners that are on the market right now and research their ingredients. So that's exactly what I've done. The first one that we have is Lean Fire XT, made by Force Factor. that I think this one is marketed a little bit more towards men, based on the sort of the image of the. I know it's super hot in here. I can't put the air conditioner on.
Thermogenesis is happening.
Yeah.
All the fat is burning.
Yeah, we always talk weather.
Yeah,
so
we
it's
always-
obligatory. It's brutal
out.
hot. Yeah.
So
And we can't have the air conditioning on
Well,
because
not right
it's
now,
too
but
loud. And then you complain about the sirens. We get a lot of complaints about the sirens.
we don't
It's
want
the
You don't wanna hear
ambiance.
the
It's the
AC
ambiance. We're authentic. We're an authentic New York podcast.
If anybody wants to send us like soundproof walls though, like that you hang
Yeah.
up,
Do that.
you just ship them to us.
Yeah, ship them. Sure. Absolutely. So, all right. So, a 1 month supply or 60 pills cost around $50. It's $50, which is a little less than $1 per pill. And the main ingredients, according to Force Factor, is peak thermovigilance triplex.
Sorry, I just want to pause.
Go.
I want to pause for a minute. I think that that we need to focus on the fact that it's very common that somebody will spend $50
Yes.
on something like pills and then tell me that eating healthy is too expensive.
So you've had experience with this.
Oh, all the
Great.
time. We would so we need to focus. That's a whole
That's
other
a whole-
podcast
that's why I
episode.
wanted- that's why I
But
mentioned
just
the
I
price,
wanted
yeah.
to pause on that. Now go ahead and read. Try
So,
and
yeah,
read. the
$50.
ingredients.
That's $50 a month
$50.
that could be spent on good
a
food.
week of groceries, and
Yeah.
for real, I have a podcast, Tips with Toni, eating healthy on a budget. You could get $50 worth of groceries for sure. But go on.
So, yes, peak thermovigilance triplex is, according to them, the main ingredient or their blend, which is the fat incineration blend, the metabolic and mind matrix, and the pure energy complex. And so here are the actual ingredients: caffeine, which is 150 milligrams per pill.
Which does create thermogenesis in the
Okay,
body.
so
there
we
are
know-
studies to support that.
We know
for
that
sure.
caffeine can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Right now, we'll get on to
150 milligrams. That's like 2 cups of coffee.
2 cups of coffee, and I don't know if they're recommending taking 1 or 2 pills. It doesn't matter what they recommend because
So upwards, you don't want to usually do more than 500 milligrams per day.
Okay, so that's a significant amount.
That would be an upper limit. Yeah.
All right. So now the next thing is L-theanine. You know anything about that?
That's just
It's an amino.
acid.
Yeah, and I think it's supposed to have anti-anxiety agents, probably so that you don't crash from the caffeine. That's
Yeah.
that-
But yeah, I mean, amino acids are naturally in food. I guess they're just extracting it.
yeah. So now we have L-carnitine,
It's another amino acid.
another amino acid. All right. So green tea extract and cayenne pepper.
Oh yeah, so so like there are actually some studies that do support and show that there's like thermogenic factors to it. But to be honest, like I guess what they're doing is like they're combining all of these things that have barely significant like implications. So like what I mean by that is like
$50 a month.
for $50 a month, you could basically like if you combine all that stuff, it might spare you like 75 to maybe 150 calories per day worth of like fat burning. So it's like that's like okay, it's like having one less cookie.
Okay. All right.
To put it into perspective.
So now here's
And also, like, I would be interested. Like, if you take all of those, does the impact compound, or is it kind of like you could have all that?
There's no studies that
Yeah.
use them together. That's
Yeah.
what they're doing. It's like let's take all these studies that show there's some studies that support that this helps with thermogenesis. So now if we combine them together, we'll get triple the effect. But that's like the same thing as people think. Okay, a supplement helps with something, so let me take double the dose, and it counteracts the actual benefit.
Yeah.
So no, we don't know that these work in combination with each other.
And it's a supplement, so they bypass any FDA approval. So they just
of course.
sorry,
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if I
So yeah, for those who don't know, supplements are not. Basically, the FDA doesn't look into a supplement unless something really bad happens.
Well, it's funny because there's a big story about that.
So I don't want to say too much, but I will say, you know about the Four Loko drinks? That's what happened.
Really?
Yeah. So basically, Four Loko is an alcoholic beverage that has a high alcohol content and a high caffeine content. And the FDA there was no approval process for it. But then a lot of kids, unfortunately, were getting themselves into dangerous situations. And now Four Loko beverages, they don't have the caffeine anymore. So they have the high alcohol, but they don't have the caffeine. But unfortunately, because a lot of children, but like, college kids who were getting themselves either really drunk or overdrink, it was really bad. So that's just an example of FDA coming in a little bit too late.
Yeah, and that we see that does happen. All right, we also have yohimbe extract. Supposedly, it's actually
from
used
a tree.
South African tree. Used to, not South. It's a tree found in Central Africa, and it's actually used in scientific properties to reverse sedation in animals, and it's being tested as an ED treatment, but there is inconclusive evidence about that.
ED as in erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
Okay, not
so
eating disorder.
We don't know what the deal with that is, but who knows? They
it just sounds like another sort of stimulant, like a quote-unquote natural stimulant.
Yeah. So here are the other ingredients. Magnesium stearate.
Hold on. Can I just say one more thing? Sorry.
Go for it.
But, like, because it comes from a plant or something and it seems natural, like, therefore, it's healthy. But there's plenty of
it's an extract. It's not from a. It's they.
But even so, but just because it is, there's plenty of things. There's plants that people, if you're pregnant, it'll kill your baby. Like that doesn't make it healthy.
Plants that'll kill you.
Yeah, there are plants that'll kill you. Mushrooms will kill you. Some mushrooms, like so. Yeah, so that I just want to like pause
just because
on
it comes
as
from
well.
a plant doesn't necessarily.
Just because it comes from a natural source. Like sugar's natural, it's not good for you in excess. But
unless it's algae.
Yes, algae. So we want to start seeing algae in these things too.
Probably.
All right. So we have magnesium stearate, which is when you combine it with calcium stearate, is actually becomes soap scum, right? And generally, magnesium stearate is used for binding ingredients. It's a binder, right? And you see it a lot in baby formula. You have dicalcium phosphate, which is a calcium supplement found in cereal. You have titanium dioxide, which is a pigment. And actually, the International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies titanium dioxide as a Group 2B carcinogen, which means it is possibly carcinogenic to humans. This is in those supplements. And you see, actually, these ingredients find their way into pretty much all of these supplements. We have FDNC Red 40, FDNC Blue 1, which are food dyes. Yeah. So they're putting all this stuff in those pills. So that was what we found in Lean Fire, Force Factor. So we have another one called Burn 60, very popular. I think this one is marketed to women more so. It's $32 for 60 pills. There's a guarana seed extract, which is their version of caffeine, 180 milligrams.
Is it guarana? Guarana?
Yeah.
Have you ever had the Brazilian soda? I don't know why I'm interjected, but it's my favorite soda in the world. It's like drinking candy.
Yeah, it could. Yeah,
well,
sure.
Well, I don't know how it's related to the guarana extract, but the soda is amazing.
So, also black tea.
Also, just learned that ginger beer is soda. Just saying. Go on.
Yeah, ginger beer is soda. So same with ginger ale.
I literally just learned that because the Moscow mules are like so popular right now. Yeah, I feel like late to the party, but anyways, go on.
All right, so we have black tea leaf extract, grapeseed extract, dillweed extract, dextrose.
Which is this part of glucose. That's fine.
Cellulose, yeah. Once again, yellow number 6 and red 40 titanium dioxide.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of food dyes, but not for nothing. Food dyes are also in like some cereals, like sugary cereals and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of those.
So we're just saying what's in the pills, right? All right, so now the most famous of all of them, Hydroxycut, which is marketed both to men and women, which can be, depending, they have different variations, $20, $40, $60. 270 milligrams of caffeine.
That's pretty high.
Right. L-theanine, coleus forskolin, which is an extract of a Indian coleus plant, which may produce testosterone and fight inflammation. Inconclusive evidence. Yohimbe extract, green coffee extract, once again, food dyes, titanium dioxide, magnesium stearate, blue number 1, red 40. So these are your basic ingredients that are found. So it's mainly caffeine with some other extracts and some food dyes. That's what these fat burners consist of. There's nothing magical in there. Although there was something magical in there before 2004. So Hydroxycut was made by a company called Muscle Tech, right? And do you know what the ingredient in Hydroxycut and Xenadrine and all those things we were taking was?
Well, at first I thought you were gonna Well, no, let me stop. Some kind of amphetamine, right?
Close.
Okay.
It was something called ephedra.
Oh yeah, it's ephedra. That's right. Yeah.
And so Muscle Tech at one point had 80 court cases against them, including the Missouri Surgeon General. We of course we'll give you the show notes if you guys want to check this out for yourself. They claimed it was clinically proven to burn fat, which was considered false. You had a bunch of people die from it. 155 deaths were attributed to ephedra, including a major league pitcher named Steve Beckler. Now, this is from Muscle Tech. Supposedly had this information and still released it. After ephedra was banned in 2004, they changed the formula of hydroxycut to contain hydroxycitric acid. Do you know anything about that?
No. I don't know.
Now, this caused 23 cases of serious liver damage and 1 death.
Wow.
So they changed the formula, and they still killed people and made people sick. And then in 2009, all products were recalled, and in 2010, hydroxycut was back in the market with the main ingredient being caffeine. So just goes to show what these companies are willing to do to make a profit. To me, it seems as if they don't really care whether people die or people get sick, have liver damage or anything. They're trying to make profit, right? And just so that if you're going to take a fat burner, realize that these are what these companies are doing, right? They're going to tell you anything they want. They can basically say anything. They can say clinically proven.
Yeah, because it's not FDA approved or anything. They really have no regulations whatsoever. There's very few regulations but because they're supplements, so there's really nothing that they can or that are legally they're not allowed to say.
Yeah. So, what would you consider to be a healthy dose of caffeine? Because we can see that this is basically the main ingredient in, and we know that caffeine isn't bad. But
so caffeine affects everybody differently. So like I was saying, the upper limits are usually about 500 milligrams a day. So, but if someone's taking something like hydroxycut that has 270 milligrams per pill, maybe they take 2 pills. That's obviously over the 500. And then also say they have like coffee or soda or chocolate or iced tea or, those are other forms of caffeine. And so, I think we have a podcast about caffeine, or it might be just be coffee. But either way, we talk a lot about caffeine in there. If anybody wants to learn more,
Melanie talked a little bit about coffee.
She talked about that for like athletic performance and stuff. But we did a whole episode about coffee and caffeine, I believe. So if people want to go look back at that.
So as we mentioned, upset stomach, you had issues with that. We all felt anxious taking it. Trouble sleeping. Could be. What would you think about this for someone that might have high blood pressure or heart issues?
Not good. No, don't. People who
someone who's already obese and
people who have heart issues aren't even supposed to have caffeine. They're usually limited on the amount of caffeine that they're supposed to have. So yeah, definitely. And with any supplement, always go over with your doctor. Like, I'm a pretty lenient dietitian, to be honest. Like, if someone tells me that they're taking it, I'm not. Listen, I know it's because you want to lose weight. I'm going to talk to you about other ways. I'm not going to encourage it. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to say that this isn't really going to be what makes or breaks your diet. I don't recommend it, but if you want to continue taking it, you're welcome to, but it's not going to be the end-all solution.
So, Ryan, are you going to start taking fat burners that you need right now?
No. I'm a bad supplement taker to begin with, so I'm not. I wouldn't start fat burner unless look.
Honestly, it's a waste of money. I really like.
Well, yeah, it's like I think unless you have chemicals that might kill you, I think the whatever thermogenic effect you're going to get from any of that is negligible compared to whatever work you could put in. And I think for us, like if I get to the point where I'm like not happy and I'm working and I'm not getting results, I'm just gonna go to a doctor and get on TRT therapy or something. Like, might as well just have a doctor prescribe something for me rather than like trying to self kind of quote medicate using something that's not approved.
So a lot of these also, a lot of the fat burners will suppress the appetite. What is your view on appetite suppression, and how can it harm the body and also the psyche?
I don't believe in suppressing the appetite because you're screwing up your metabolism. I believe if your body's hungry that you should eat. Obviously, if you are trying to achieve fat loss, there is going to be a little bit of hunger there. So you're going to have to get used to that uncomfortable feeling of having a little bit of hunger. But taking an appetite suppressant for a long period of time is not good. I mean, we did just do an episode. I don't know when this is going out, but if you're doing a competition and it's short term, once again, I'm not advocating for it, but there might be times where it could help your, because you're going to get paid at the end. There's a goal.
And
but
you're recommending it if it was in short, very
yeah,
short
like a
term.
very short term, and like there's a real specific reason. But other than that, long term, obviously longevity, being able to recognize your hunger cues. I mean, I really believe that we should be, if you're hungry, you should eat. It's just about choosing the right types of food.
So I guess I'm going to cue this up. Cue this up right now. I'm looking at Hydroxycut, and we're looking at images, right? Images of the supplement, and you see, right? You'll see a picture, like a before and after of someone. You'll see very ripped, airbrushed fitness models. Do you guys think, and then it'll say something like clean energy and mental focus supplies premium green coffee for weight loss, the most advanced weight loss and clean sensory experience, and then it'll show two really good looking healthy fit people, right? Or you'll see a before and after.
You mean two good looking, super dehydrated
Yeah.
airbrushed fitness models?
Yes.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that these products are predatory?
Yes, 100%. It's basically the advertisements also, I mean, very rarely are they ever saying like you need to eat healthy and exercise on top of this to get, somewhat of an effect, which that's actually what's making people lose the weight. If anything, it's really just a caffeine, which is stimulating to help you give the energy for your workout, but you still got to do the workout. You still got to eat healthy. You still have to have a caloric deficit. Like all of those things still have to happen.
I think to be fair, like the industry is predatory. It's the nature of the beast. So I think you then have to determine as a company how immoral you're going to act in your being predatory. But it's really all predatory, especially if you're selling these supplements.
So. Yet, I think this, I guess maybe to us, this just seems logical. Yet, if you look online, you look on YouTube, there are millions of people taking these. And there are lots of people doing reviews. Oh, this one works, this one doesn't. There's people posting their videos on their experiences with it. This is pretty obvious. Like, why do people continue to take them?
I mean, you dive down the rabbit hole. Like we opened this episode with talking about my experience on the cruise, and so you think about that cycle of weight loss that people do go through, and we've all so none of us are obese or have any real what issues in our lives. I know, Toni, you mentioned growing up that you struggled with your weight, so but we've all used it on, and in fact the two that had the least weight issues tried the Fatburners the most of
That's
just the three of us.
Good point.
We're in a world where you've got the people who we're so focused on extremes that here we are, young with no need to use a fat burner, and we're using Fatburners because we want to look like the guy in the magazine. And so then what's the person who is obese or overweight? It's like every level you want to get down a level. And if the fat burner, it's either it's selling you as something that's going to help you, expand on your hard work, or it's the easy way out. And that's how they sell it. So like I said, it is predatory. And, we're not, I don't want to say people aren't stupid, but we're all ignorant of what we don't know and what we're not an expert in. And so most people, I think, if you're reasonable about anything, no matter what you get yourself into, you're going to try to do an adequate amount of research to look into whatever it is you're doing. So if I decide I want to buy a camera, I'm not just going to go buy a camera. I'm going to try to at least get a basic knowledge of what makes a good camera, what's my budget, what are my needs, what's the right kind of thing. But I think that we don't we're not taught in school like how to interact with the world. Like you're taught history, you're taught math, you're taught science, you're kind of taught how to do stuff in college, but we're not taught common sense. And, it would be great to teach, how do you research, like really research? How do you, critically think about things? And so I think a lot of these skills we're actually not really equipped with. So we're just taught to believe whatever, someone says something does X, Y, and Z, we believe it until it makes us sick, or until, the media tells us that there's something wrong with it. So, not to, I'm kind of on my soapbox right now, but I think there is a larger issue with kind of educating the populace on how to interact with the media and interact with advertising, and know that you kind of have to be cynical. You kind of have to be skeptical of everything, and not trust what you're looking at, not trust the claims.
Tells you something that you probably know deep down they ain't gonna.
Yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, the saying. So I think that's what. So it's like, I don't want to say, it's easy to say, throw your hands up and say, how could you be so stupid? But realistically, we all fall. We've all fallen for it, and I could probably list off 10 things I've fallen for in the last year in a similar way. So I think it's just that when you frame it from a position of us knowing a little bit more about the industry and us being older and being skeptical, I think we tend to think about things as this is obvious. But again, there are situations where we're going to make choices where other people are going to look and say, this is obvious. How could you not see through that?
You have anything left to add to
Yeah, I just think when somebody really, really wants something, they'll kind of, they really, really want it, so they might take a pill to get it or whatever it is. But, I just want to remind everyone that anything worth it in life takes work. There's no shortcuts. So if that's what you're using it for, you're better off investing that money in healthy food or a dietitian or a personal trainer, and really learn how to eat, learn how to exercise.
Well, it's funny. I saw, and this kind of again goes towards the culture being about like very clickbaity, and about you need to get the eyeballs. And so I saw something that was like the holy grail of exercise. It's like, oh, what's that? And so you'd think actually like, okay, what's the holy grail of exercise? It's got to be something that's gonna make you lose weight, build muscle really fast without effort. And the article actually was a study, and I'm more aware of it now because I was using it for an episode we're gonna talk about kind of building muscle mass. But it was actually, when you looked at the content was actually fairly realistic. It was about, there were studies done on how people can build muscle and lose fat at the same time. But it explains very clearly, like, it's not easy. It's a lot of work. It requires significant calorie restriction with a high protein intake with very intense exercise. And that combination in a certain population will help build muscle and lose fat. So it's like interesting that the title was the Holy Grail, but it was to just get the eyeballs on it. But then the actual content was, no, it takes hard work. No matter what it is, it's going to be, you're going to have to sacrifice.
That's interesting you say that, because there's like a YouTube video on that, and it makes it perceive the same exact thing. But when you watch the video and you realize like how much work goes into actually achieving that, like, once again, it takes work. There's no shortcuts.
Yeah, but that's the industry. I mean, it's predatory. And we joke about it sometimes about, like, if we wanted to be rich, I don't know, in this industry, if we wanted to make more money, we could do so by being unethical and by taking advantage of people, because people are very vulnerable and susceptible to any suggestion. And that's part of our kind of mission statement. What's
interesting to me is because, like, they can be like skeptical to, like, I mean, I know people like working with a dietitian, they think I'm like and to be honest, my business is doing very well. I'm very successful. But you have people that like don't want to pay a certain amount of money to work with a dietitian. I can't force anyone to do that. But like, that's the part that kind of, it's like, I'm going to teach you how to eat for a lifetime, but yet you'll spend money on supplements that are going to do nothing for you. Yeah. I don't understand that. And it's just hard for me to understand that, because I'm someone who does invest. Like, I have 2 business coaches. I invest in my education. Like, I put my money where I know there's going to be a return on investment, and it's of value. And so it is very interesting, the psychology of people.
It's very funny. It's classic human behavior where people will complain about something that's too expensive, but they won't think twice about spending $5 or $6 every day on a sugary
Starbucks
latte. Yeah. Right?
Love Starbucks. Love it.
Okay, if you like it, that's fine. But
But-
it's just.
but it's very
just funny
expensive.
Human behavior. It's funny human
And
behavior.
you can make the
Yeah,
same.
but I mean, yeah, and it also I think is again it's a quick fix, and people are we're always looking for fast, instant gratification, and so if you offer instant gratification or you offer kind of a vague, I will give you the tools, that there's a problem there. So I don't know. Do you have any more to add to this,
I
Justin?
think that's it. I think we covered
This was
it.
a good topic.
Cool.
Thanks for doing your research,
Sure.
Justin.
Yep. All right. Well, as usual, check out thegymwits.com for all of our information. I am Ryan George.
I'm Justin Guild, aka Chef Sonic.
And I'm Toni Marinucci, aka Toni, the registered dietitian.
And we are the GymWits.